Another question, it says, we are living in an era where it is said that there are many cases of mental illness. Also, we have seen a rise in Muslims, especially women, entering into career jobs with good intent to benefit others who struggle with such illness and or disorders, such as the field of therapy, psychology, mental health, coaching, and psychiatry. The concern is regarding those amongst them who are not well grounded in the basic foundations of the dheen and what is necessary to distinguish between what is beneficial in those sciences and the like. So what I believe the person's asking, like, what's advice for Muslims who are embarking upon those types of careers, psychology, mental health? Is it needed? That's the first question. And the second question, is it safe? So the first question, is it needed? Yeah, it's needed. It's needed. And because, yes, you have people that are raised from childhood and abusive marriages and broken homes and divorces and the likes, yeah. So people do need advice in that. And you actually find that in the books of the Salaf. And from the greatest of books from amongst the Salaf that you find mental health is the books of who? Ibn Qayyim. The books of Ibn Qayyim. The way that man speaks about mental health is amazing. To the extent, it's mentioned in his biography that when he used to visit, because Ibn Qayyim is from Syria, he used to visit Dimashq. He's from Dimashq. He used to visit Egypt. And when the health professionals of Egypt, and we know civilization in Egypt was decades old, before Western civilization as relates to medicine. The Egyptians were very much advanced in many things. May Allah Azza wa Jal return them back to that glory and honor. So they were very much advanced in science and technology. Just look at the pyramids and the likes of that. They were very much advanced in many sciences. And from them was medicine. From them was medicine. So Imam Ibn Qayyim, rahimahullah ta'ala, in pursuit of knowledge, he used to visit Mecca, he used to visit Medina, he used to visit Egypt. It said when he used to visit these places, the doctors, the medical doctors that became aware of his presence used to gather with him just to benefit from him. And Imam Ibn Qayyim wasn't a medical doctor. But if an individual is sincere, Allah Azza wa Jal opens up for him knowledge that a person could not imagine. So the medical doctors, and he does not work in their field. And there was no neurologist those days to study the brain. And they could not reach the heart. They didn't have the technology to study the heart those days. They said they would sit with Imam Ibn Qayyim and be shocked, amazed how much knowledge this man had. So is there a need? Yes, there is a need. Yes, there is a need. But the concern here is if a female or male or female, go into this field and they don't have either therapy, psychology, mental health, and the likes, if they don't have a strong foundation in the religion, could it be detrimental and harmful? Yes, it's possible. It's possible. Because there's certain things that agree with science and there's certain things that we don't agree with science. There's certain aspects of mental health that we agree with and there's certain aspects of mental health that we don't agree with. Give you an example, and one of the brothers and I were speaking about that today. So in mental health, especially this day and age, they have this tremendous push campaign for LGBT, right? And to choose the gender that you would like. Fine. I work in corrections, right? And because of that, we are exposed to literature in psychology. There are textbooks that are written in psychology and that were authored in psychology with all types of mental illness and the symptoms and the cures and the likes. 5 years ago or 6 years ago, in some of those textbooks, homosexuality was considered a mental illness. They recently took it out of the textbook. They recently took it out of the textbook. If you search, he said they need to put it back. I didn't say it, someone else said it. If you search for the old copies of those textbooks, you will find that homosexuality was a mental illness. And not only was it a mental illness, they had the symptoms and they had the treatment. They had the treatment. There are certain chemicals, hormonal imbalances that are taking place in the individual. If you give them certain medication, it will balance their hormones. It will balance their hormones. But now because they accepted one, they took it out of the book. So it's no longer a mental illness. Two, they give the medicine for the opposite gender. So the men that want to be women, they give them the medicine that they used to give to women to make them more feminine. Yani there's medicine that they used to give to women that were having this hormonal imbalance that would make her hormones balance and she would feel more feminine. Right? She would feel more feminine. It would allow certain parts of her body to grow to show that she's a female. Now what do? They give that to men. So now you see men walking around with what? Breasts. 10 years ago, you used to give that to women. Now they give it to men. Now they give it to the men. And the medication that they used to give to the man to make him more masculine, they give it to who? They give it to the woman. So now she grows facial hair. Now her voice is deeper. Right? The point is, so there are certain harmful elements of that knowledge. So what I would advise, if an individual decides to go into that knowledge, then it's extremely important that they stick very close to the masjid to learn their religion. There's stuff that you will hear about, and the way they present that knowledge, and them being very academic, at times it may be very, I don't mean that. It may be very attractive. You feel, wow, this is knowledge. This is based on science. This is based on neurology. This is based on the study of the brain. This is based on the study of the heart. And in all actuality, we should not be so dazzled with that. Why? Because their knowledge is proven two ways. Their knowledge in those universities, whether these universities or the Ivy League universities, whether it's Harvard or whether it's Yale or whether it's Cambridge or whether it's NYU or whether it's Columbia, two ways. Science and research. Science and research. That's it. Okay? Whenever they invent new technology, now they discover new things. They said, we didn't have the technology before. Now we have the technology. Now we discovered. So that means until they get the technology, they will be what? Deficient. Until they get the technology, they will be deficient. You don't have the technology. Fine. Another thing that their knowledge is based on, research. Right? Research was done in this university. Research was done in that university. How many participants? 10,000 participants. 20,000 participants. 15,000 participants. Okay. Fair enough. 20,000 participants. But does that represent the world? 20,000 participants in Norfolk, New Jersey, or 10,000 participants in Oxford, UK, right? That doesn't represent the world. Those numbers, those statistics are not sufficient. Okay? You can benefit from it, but you can't say that's the norm. 10,000 people. We've done experiments with 10,000 women. Okay, well, was that Saudi women? Was that Black American women? Was that Chinese women? Was it Egyptian women? How can it be substantial? Tayyib. So that must be also deficient. Our knowledge is based on what? Revelation. Our knowledge is based on revelation. Can science or research ever compare or come close to revelation? Never. Never come close. Because of that, can you imagine because of that reality that many of us are unaware of, and many of us are clueless about, because of that, hundreds, if not thousands, of top universities around the world study Islam. They have their departments of Middle Eastern studies. They study the Quran. They study Bukhari. They study Muslim. They study the books of Ibn Taymiyyah. All of these universities, Yale, Harvard, Cambridge, Oxford, NYU, Columbia, all of them study Islam. And they write research papers. And they translate our books. Because they realized once they're doing their science and once they're doing their research, they're saying, how does Islam get this information without science and research? How does Islam get this information without science and research? We're discovering things whenever we invent new technology. We're discovering things and it was already in the Quran. We're discovering things, this is what they're saying. We're discovering things and it was already in the authentic sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad. How? They're bewildered. They don't understand. So my dear brothers and sisters, this is an encouragement for all of us to learn our religion. Learn our religion. The Library of Congress, which is in Washington, the Library of Congress has all of the books. There's no book that you have in your library except there's a copy there. The books of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, the books of Imam Bukhari, the books of Imam Ahmed, the books of Ibn Qayyim, all of the books and the manuscripts are in the Library of Congress. The books of Shaykh al-Albani, Shaykh bin Baz, Shaykh Fawd, all of their books are in the Library of Congress. What do they need them for? What do they need them for? So we advise our brothers and sisters, if you go into that field, then there's a need to go into that field, but be careful. And be very close to the masjid. Learn your religion. Read books. And seek knowledge if you come across something which is unclear to you.